The envelope was there at 4 in the morning. Edgar sensed it before he saw it. When he opened the door, he immediately felt that something had changed. The hallway carried a different atmosphere. Cold, but not the ordinary kind of cold. Not the kind that drifted in from outside. The kind that made you feel someone had passed through. Then he saw the envelope. It rested on the threshold. There was no name on it. No stamp. Only a small cross drawn in black ink. Edgar did not bend down to pick it up right away. First, he looked. He stepped outside. The corridor was empty. The staircase was silent. No sound came from below. The snow had stopped a few hours earlier. He had seen that through the window. The sidewalk beneath the street lamp was completely white, and there wasn't a single footprint on it. Which meant the envelope had not been left before the snowfall. It had been left afterward. Sometime since midnight. Edgar picked up the envelope and went inside. He sat down at his desk and opened it. There were two things inside. A newspaper clipping. And a note. The clipping was from a newspaper 3 days old. It was short. Tucked away in a corner, seemingly insignificant, as if someone had placed it there merely to fill empty space on the page. The headline was printed in small letters. Father Thomas Morrow, 67, passed away last night. The church congregation announces the loss with deep sorrow. The note was even shorter. 3 lines. Get the document before the church does. Time is short. Ask the grocer near the church. There was no signature. Edgar read the clipping a second time. Morrow. The name snagged on something in his mind, like a small object dropped into a drawer but not quite found. Where had he heard it? In what context? He couldn't remember. He lit a cigarette. Looked out the window. The street was still deserted. The sidewalk beneath the snow was still perfectly white. Jacket. Trench coat. Fedora. He left. The church stood in one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city. To reach it, you had to pass through narrow streets, too narrow for cars, yet somehow long when crossed on foot. Edgar chose to walk. Partly because he wanted to think. Partly because he wanted to feel the neighborhood before approaching the church. At that hour, the streets were completely dead. The shops were closed. The windows dark. Only a faint glow leaked from a bakery. They had risen early to prepare the morning bread. No one else was around. The church was an old stone building. It wasn't large. It couldn't be compared to the city's grand cathedrals. But it carried weight. The kind of weight that years press into walls. One of the stained glass windows was broken and covered with a wooden board, a temporary fix that had remained temporary for far too long. Edgar circled the building before doing anything else. The front door was locked. Expected. The back door was locked too. But the lock was new. The building was old. The lock was new. That mismatch meant something. Someone had deliberately secured this door. Recently. And there were 2 distinct sets of footprints in the snow before it. One large. One small. The larger prints led outward. The smaller ones led inward. Someone was still inside. Edgar waited. In the darkness, pressed against the wall. 5 minutes. 10. No sound from within. No movement. Then he opened the lock. It took less than 2 minutes. The lock was new, but new locks had a disadvantage. Factory-made locks always yielded to pressure from the same angle. He stepped inside. The church interior was dark. But not completely. Light seeped through the broken window in the distance, projecting long shadows of the pews across the walls. Edgar paused for a moment, allowing his eyes to adjust. No one was there. Or at least no one in sight. The door leading to the priest's room stood on the right side of the main sanctuary. Half open. Edgar didn't push it. He merely moved to the side and scanned the room with his eyes. No one. He entered. The room was small. A bed. A heavy wooden desk. A large cross mounted on the wall. 2 bookshelves filled to the top. Several books on the desk. A candlestick. A teacup. And a collection of scattered notes. The bed had been made. Neat. Corners tucked. Pillow straight. But this wasn't the kind of bed someone made after getting up in the morning. It didn't take much to notice that. Beds made after waking always contain small imperfections, a slight asymmetry, a corner puffed up a little too much, a pillow sitting slightly off-center. This bed was perfect. Which meant either someone had gone out of their way to make it meticulously, or no one had slept in it at all. He moved to the desk. The teacup. Cold now, but there was still a damp ring at the bottom. 2 hours. Maybe 3. Someone had used it that morning. One of the desk drawers stood open. Empty. But the emptiness contained something. The desktop just above the drawer bore faint scratches, not from a pen, but from the edge of an object. The mark of something that had sat there for a very long time. A rectangular shape. Notebook-sized. Or perhaps file-sized. It had been removed recently. Edgar remembered the footprints. The smaller set leading inward. Someone had come here, taken something from the desk, and left. They must have departed only a minute before Edgar entered. Not through the back door. Through somewhere else. Edgar looked toward the rear wall of the church. There was a small door there. A storage room door. Slightly open. Beyond it lay a narrow passage that opened onto the side streets. At 7 in the morning, Edgar stood in front of the grocery store. It was a small place. Far from the city's commercial district. The kind of neighborhood shop that knew its own customers and needed no one else. 2 product posters hung in the window. Both had been there for years. Their colors had faded. The door was open. Inside, an elderly woman was taking inventory. The shelves were only half-stocked, it was still early, and the morning deliveries had not yet arrived. When she saw Edgar, she looked up. She didn't say anything. Just studied him with the expression of someone waiting to see what a customer wanted.
Do you have coffee?
Fresh pot's not ready yet. You'll have to wait.
I'll wait.
He sat down. Waited. The woman lit the stove and put water on. But she said nothing. Neither did Edgar. When the coffee arrived, he took a sip. Strong. Bitter. Good. The woman remained behind the counter, still examining her inventory sheet. Then she paused. The kind of pause elderly people make before deciding to do something. As if making the choice internally first. She reached beneath the counter. Pulled out a small package. A small black cross had been drawn on it in ink. She placed it on the counter.
Someone left this last night. Said it was for you.
Who?
Someone I didn't see. Came after midnight, left it, and went away. It was sitting outside the door when I arrived this morning.
Did they say anything else?
No.
What did they look like?
I said I didn't see them.
But judging by the footprints, they stood outside for quite a while, walked away, came back, then left it.
Edgar finished his coffee. Left the money. Stood up. As he reached the door, the woman called after him.
Be careful. That priest was a good man.
Did you know him?
Everyone knew him around here. He served this neighborhood for 20 years.
She looked at the list, but her eyes weren't really reading.
He kept people's secrets. Whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But he kept them.
When he returned to the office, he switched on the desk lamp and placed the package in front of him. Before opening it, he examined the outside. The paper was thick, not ordinary wrapping paper, but something of slightly better quality. The string had been tied neatly, without haste. Someone had prepared this package calmly, carefully. He opened it. Inside were about 30 pages. Filled with handwriting, each line spaced evenly from the next. The papers had yellowed with age, they were not new. But although the ink had faded slightly along the edges of some pages, the main text remained clear and readable. This man knew how to write. There was no trembling in the handwriting. No hesitation. No crossed-out words. There was no title. It began only with a date. A date from 9 years earlier. Edgar began to read. The first few pages were an explanation, brief and dry. The man described who he was and what he did. Father Thomas Morrow. A priest for 22 years. During that time, he had listened to the confessions of hundreds of people. And over the years, he had noticed something. Some people revealed what they were going to do in the future before they actually did it. Not in their words, but in their voices. In the places where they paused. In the sentences they skipped. Morrow had begun writing these things down. The following pages were a list. 14 names. Beside each one was a date and a brief description. Crimes. As Edgar read through the list, he took notes. The first 12 names were dated in the past. One involved theft. One involved perjury. One involved deliberately getting another person fired. The offenses varied. Most were not major crimes. But the way they were written was precise. Dates. Names. Sometimes even locations. As if they had been documented. This was not a fabricated confession record. These were real notes. The 13th name. Clara Marsh. Date, 3 weeks from now. Crime, attempted poisoning of her husband. Edgar stopped. Read it again. 3 weeks from now. He turned the page. The 14th name was the same. A date in the future. A different person. A different crime. But again, in the future. Edgar closed the document and leaned back in his chair. Trying to make sense of it. A priest was dead. A document remained behind. The document contained the sins of 14 people, detailed, dated, organized. The first 12 had already happened. The last 2 had not happened yet. There were 2 possibilities. Either this man had truly learned, through listening and observation, to predict what people would do. And these predictions had been written down. Or the list was a guide. Instructions telling people what they were supposed to do. The second possibility was more dangerous. But why would it emerge only after his death? Edgar opened the document again. Studied the pages. Followed the rhythm of the handwriting, where it sped up, where it slowed down. Had the writer ever paused? Yes. Immediately before the 13th name. There was a small stain along the edge of the page. Not ink. Coffee, perhaps. Or water. The pen had stopped there and touched the side. The writer had hesitated at this point. Only here. The 12th name was Harold Vane. Crime, defrauding his business partner through forged documents. Date, 4 months ago. This belonged to the past. Which meant it could be verified. Early the next morning, Edgar headed into the commercial district. Finding Vane's shop wasn't difficult. Business registration records were public, and a little research was enough. A fabric store. On the east side of the city. The ground floor of a 2-story building. Edgar arrived before noon. The store was open. There were no customers. Vane was inside. Middle-aged. Slightly overweight. His hair was neatly combed, and his appearance clearly mattered to him. Everything was in place. Nothing excessive. Nothing lacking. It was the appearance of a man who took his work seriously. Edgar walked in. Vane looked up and smiled. A new customer. Be attentive. Be welcoming. Edgar didn't speak immediately. He studied the shop. The shelves. The fabrics. The colors. The register. 2 photographs hung on the wall. One showed Vane in his younger years, perhaps 25 or 30 years old. Standing beside another man around the same age. Both were smiling. Shaking hands. In the background was the sign of this very store. It looked newly opened. A partnership photograph. That man was no longer in the store. His name wasn't anywhere either. Not on the shelves. Not near the register. Not on the sign. He had been erased.
Where is your partner?
We split up. Years ago.
How many years ago?
Why are you asking?
Edgar took nothing from his pocket. He simply looked at him. Vane didn't recognize that look. But he felt it. He sensed that something was wrong.
Did you know Father Morrow?
This time, the silence lasted longer. Vane did not come out from behind the counter. But his hands settled on top of it. As though trying to steady himself.
He's dead.
Yes, but what he wrote remains.
Something changed in Vane's eyes. It wasn't exactly fear. Fear was more immediate than this. This was deeper. As though a door he had been expecting for a very long time had finally been knocked on. And now he had no choice but to open it.
What did those writings contain?
Names, dates, crimes. Your name is among them.
Vane drew a deep breath. Waited. Then stepped out from behind the counter and walked toward the back room.
Come with me.
The back room was small. A table. 2 chairs. A cabinet. Vane sat down. Edgar sat as well. And Vane told his story. 4 months earlier, his former partner, the man in the photograph, Raymond Frost, had secured a large order. But before making payment, Frost transferred the order to someone else. The profit went to Frost. The loss remained with Vane. A loss he could not absorb on his own. He thought about it for several days. Then one evening, just once, he used Frost's account information to make a small transfer. It wasn't even a tenth of what he had lost. But he did it.
No one knew. No one. How could anyone possibly...
Did Morrow say anything to you during confession?
Confession? 6 months ago? I was furious about what Frost had done to me. I went to the church. I'd been carrying it inside me for days. I told him what I had been thinking about doing, in general terms. I didn't mention any names. I didn't mention account numbers. I just told him how angry I was.
And what did Morrow say?
He told me to calm down. Said decisions made in anger don't last.
Anything else?
He asked what kind of work Frost did. Asked why he occupied so much of my attention. So I told him. About his business life. What kind of man he was. It was as if he was trying to learn things.
Edgar wrote in his notebook. Morrow wasn't only listening. He was asking questions. Collecting information. Officially, Morrow's death was clean. There was a death certificate. A doctor had signed it. The church had issued a notice. The funeral had been held with a small ceremony. Everything was in order. But Edgar never trusted this kind of cleanliness. The cleanest things were usually the things that had been cleaned the most. He began with the church that had conducted the funeral. He spoke with an assistant priest, a young man, under 30. He knew Morrow. Respected him.
It was a small funeral.
Yes. Morrow didn't have much family. A few members of the congregation came.
Who chose the coffin?
The church arranged it.
Was it closed?
Yes. Morrow requested that. In his notes.
What notes?
His funeral instructions. Some people make preparations, how they want the funeral conducted, what should be said. Morrow left instructions as well. Closed coffin. Small ceremony. No large crowd.
When did he leave these instructions?
I'm not sure. The senior clergy handled it.
Who keeps those instructions?
The young priest didn't answer. But his silence was an answer. The cemetery stood on the edge of the city. The roads had not yet been cleared of snow. Only the main path was open. Edgar asked the caretaker to help him locate the grave. The caretaker was an elderly man. He was drinking coffee in a small hut and clearly had no desire to step outside. But Edgar was patient.
Morrow's funeral. Were you there?
We dug the grave. Of course, I stood through the ceremony.
How many people were there?
Not many. 6, maybe 7.
The coffin.
What about it?
The coffin. Was it normal?
The caretaker set down his coffee. Thought for a moment. Then something appeared on his face, the expression people wear when they are forced to remember something they would rather forget.
It was light.
Go on.
When we carried it, it was lighter than normal. Much lighter. But like I said, he was an old man. Didn't weigh much anyway.
How much weight do you think was inside it?
The caretaker looked at him. He hadn't expected that question.
Carrying coffins is your job. You've carried hundreds over the years. Give me an educated estimate.
40 kilos, maybe 45. A 67-year-old man should have weighed 60, 70 kilos at least.
Edgar wrote in his notebook. Morrow wasn't in the coffin. She had 3 weeks. Gathering information about Clara Marsh took time. The document provided only her name and the crime, an attempt to poison her husband. Nothing else. Edgar started with neighborhood records. Clara Marsh. Married. No children. Living in the northern district of the city. Her husband was a businessman. He owned a medium-sized import company. Edgar did not follow the woman. That would have been noticeable. It would have frightened her. Instead, he learned her habits. Every Tuesday morning, at 9:45, she visited a small grocery store near her home. Short, polite conversations with the cashiers. A shopping list that was nearly identical every week. A structured life. Edgar visited the same store for 3 Tuesdays. The first Tuesday, he watched her from outside. The second Tuesday, he went inside but wandered through a different section. The third Tuesday, he shopped directly behind her. And that was when he saw it. Clara Marsh was standing in front of the cleaning products aisle. For a long time. She wasn't looking at the basket in her hand. She was looking at the shelf. A particular section of the shelf. Again and again, her eyes returned to the same spot. Edgar looked at the shelf. Detergents. Bleach. General cleaning supplies. And off to one side, separated slightly from the others, were small dark bottles. There were symbols printed on them. Chemical content symbols. Clara didn't put anything into her basket. She waited. Then moved on. Edgar picked up one of the bottles. Leo, Edgar's chemist friend, operated a small laboratory in the university district. They went back a long way, a connection from Edgar's days on the police force. Leo examined the bottle.
What is this doing on a grocery store shelf?
Is it normal or not?
It shouldn't be. The contents are intended for industrial use, harmless in small doses, but in large quantities, if taken regularly. It causes kidney damage, slowly. Diagnosis is difficult because the symptoms resemble other conditions.
Colorless?
Yes,
Odorless?
that too. Mix it into a liquid and nobody would notice.
Edgar took the bottle and left. He had 3 weeks. But he tried another route. The husband's name was Martin Marsh. Edgar investigated him. Company records. Bank transfers. Business connections. It took 2 days. And he found something. From the outside, the company's accounting appeared clean. But certain transfers were going to strange places. The same account. At regular intervals. Small amounts. He traced the account. It belonged to someone else. A woman's name. An address on the western side of the city. The transfers had been continuing for 2 years. Clara didn't know. Or perhaps she knew but couldn't prove it. Or perhaps she had stopped trying to prove it and turned towards something else. Edgar prepared an anonymous envelope. Inside he placed 2 things. A summary of the transfer records. And a single note. There is a possibility the accounts may be investigated. Be careful. He mailed the envelope to Martin Marsh's business address. 1 week later, Martin Marsh arranged an urgent business trip. A long one. Several months. He left the city. Clara Marsh never went back to that shelf. While working on the next name, there was a knock at the door. It was late. Close to midnight. Edgar was going through the documents. An inconsistency connected to the 4th name occupied his thoughts. The date and personal information didn't quite match. Something was missing. The knock came softly. Twice. Then silence. Edgar took his revolver from the drawer but slipped it into his pocket. He walked to the door. Opened it. An old man. A long dark coat. Gray hair. Clean-shaven. His hands were in his pockets. His eyes looked tired. Truly tired. Not the fatigue of lack of sleep. The fatigue of life. Edgar recognized the face. He placed it within a second. The photograph on the church wall. Years old. But the same face. Father Thomas Morrow. He wasn't dead. The 2 men looked at one another. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Morrow did. His voice was low. Tired.
You stopped both of them.
Yes.
Faster than expected.
Come in.
Morrow sat across from him at the desk. Edgar poured coffee. Morrow didn't drink immediately. His hands wrapped around the cup, but he didn't raise it. As if he only wanted to feel the warmth. Edgar waited. He knew the power of waiting. People wanted to fill silence. And those who filled silence usually told the truth. Morrow began. For 22 years he had listened to confessions. Hundreds of people had come to him. Small sins. Large sins. Genuine remorse. False remorse. Over time he learned to distinguish one from another. But the real thing he learned was something else. People would do something. Then confess it. Then leave. And some would return. Having done the same thing again. He studied those people. For many years. Not what they said. How they said it. Which words they chose. Which parts they skipped. Where they paused. And slowly he began to see patterns. A man spoke about his anger but had never confronted the person who wronged him. Men like that eventually found another way. A woman complained about her husband's absence. But her sentences came not from loneliness. They came from accumulated hatred. Women like that made slow decisions. Morrow began writing.
Why?
Because the church didn't believe me. For years I told them, this person is dangerous. Something is happening inside this family. Be careful around this man's circle. Nobody listened. I was a priest, not a psychology expert. Who would listen?
And the document?
The document was my notes. Notes I kept for years. I gathered them together, organized them, and I decided to die. To fake it. For a while, I had to leave the church. I wanted the document published, but if I did it from within, they would suppress it. I knew that. They'd been suppressing it for years already.
What was inside the coffin?
Old books, a cabinet, a few stones.
Did the caretaker notice?
He noticed. He didn't ask.
Good man.
Silence. Edgar opened his notebook.
The last two names. Clara Marsh and the 14th person. How did you write them with future dates?
Clara came to me 6 months ago. What she told me was more than a confession. She wasn't giving details, but the words she used, the word hopelessness appeared too often. And whenever she spoke about her husband, she always hesitated. She started with anger, but stopped midway through. That means you're thinking about something, but not saying it. What was she thinking about?
How to end it?
Yes, you see it too. I saw the 14th person a month ago, but he was very different. He had already made his decision. He was simply waiting for something to happen.
What was he waiting for?
Morrow pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. Placed it on the table. A name was written on it. Edgar recognized it. It belonged to one of the city's most prominent families. Political connections. Money. Power.
Who is this person waiting for?
You?
Edgar didn't sleep that night. He sat at his desk and read the document again from beginning to end. Then he looked through his notes. Then the document again. Morrow was gone. He hadn't said where. Only that he was safe. For now. If Edgar truly needed to find him, he could. But for the moment, he wasn't supposed to. The 14th name. Edgar had heard it before. He had no direct connection to it. But the name was familiar. Somewhere in the background of the city. On the edge of every major event. Never at the center. But never completely absent. And this person had gone tomorrow. Had confessed. Confessed what? Edgar wondered why the man was waiting for him. Someone might have been following Morrow. Might have investigated him. And once they learned whom Morrow had chosen, Edgar, they might have turned their attention toward him. Or this person had gone to Morrow for an entirely different reason. And Morrow had read him. And written him down. Edgar walked to the window. The street was deserted. The snow had stopped. A street lamp flickered in the distance. He picked up his fedora. And went outside. Walking through the city at night was different. During the day, everything felt familiar. Buildings. People. Sounds. But at night, the city became something else. Something more honest. Masks came off. Real faces appeared. Edgar thought. For 20 years, Morrow had observed people and taken notes. He had turned those notes into a document. With his fake death, he had stepped away from it. But he had left the document in the hands of a stranger. Why Edgar? Why not another police officer? Why not a journalist? The old woman had said it. That priest kept people's secrets. But Morrow had secrets too. And someone, the 14th name, might have discovered them. Edgar stopped. He thought about an old police case. 10 years ago. Officially closed. The real culprit had never been caught. And nobody had believed Edgar. This name. This family. Could there have been a connection to that case? Edgar took out his notebook. Standing beneath the street lamp, he wrote, "Investigate the 14th name. Reopen the old case. Find the connection." Then he paused. And wrote one more thing. "Find out why Morrow chose you." Dawn was breaking by the time he returned to his office. He sat at his desk. Placed the document in front of him. With a red pen, he marked the 14th name. Case board. Photographs. Red strings. This case wasn't over. Not yet. Morrow's notes were only the beginning. The story of 14 people. But the story itself had not ended. Clara Marsh had been saved. Vane had been warned. But the 14th name was still there. Waiting. And the old case. Always the old case. Edgar lit a cigarette. Looked out the window. The city was waking beneath a deepening cold. The first cars passed. A baker opened his shutters. The city was beginning. He looked at the clock on his desk. 6 in the morning. He made coffee. Strong. Without sugar. And he began to work. Every lie leaves a trace. But some traces appear years later. Edgar knew that. He could wait.